All right, so this is an outline of the stomach. Of course, we know that this is the fundus of the stomach, and that's the cardiac region or the cardiac sphincter, and this is the body of the stomach, and this is the pyloric atrium, and this is the pyloric canal or the pyloric region. That's the first part of the duodenum, the first part of the intestine, beg your pardon, the duodenum. That's the abdominal aorta, and whole of this is the greater curvature of the stomach. That's the lesser curvature of the stomach. The stomach is usually thrown when we slice the stomach into two equal halves. We're looking at doing a longitudinal section. We'll see that the stomach is thrown into roll gear. So that's the opening there. So this is the pyloric sphincter. That's the cardiac sphincter there, and this is the lumen to allow food to go in. So there are longitudinal folds of the stomach inside the wall. They're called rule. Okay? Alright. But what we want to look at here is at the arterial supply of the stomach itself, the celiac trunk. And that's the celiac trunk. The branches of the celiac trunk. I expect all medical anatomy students to know the branches of the celiac trunk and where they supply, what they supply. So that's the celiac trunk. So the celiac trunk will give basically three branches. So one of the branches is going up. This is one of the branches. It's driving upward, and the other one is coming all the way down. So those are that's the so this is one of the branches of the celiac trunk. Okay, it is called the left gastric artery. The left gastric artery, and then we have this, which is the splenic artery. It's a little bit corrugated. So that's the second branch. And finally we have this branch here, which is a common hepatic artery. So that's the common hepatic artery. So the branches of the celiac trunk are the left gastric artery, the splenic artery, and the common hepatic artery. Those are the three main branches of the celiac trunk. Now we're going to examine these branches one after the other. Now the common hepatic artery begins to drive upward. It's going upward. However, as it's going upward, it gives a branch. So it gives a branch that runs downward to anastomose with the left gastric artery. So we see that the common hepatic artery gives this branch, which is a right gastric artery. The right gastric artery then anastomoses with the left gastric artery. Okay? Now the story doesn't end there. The left gastric artery decides now to give a branch that is dropping downward. So it gives another branch that is the common hepatic artery gives a branch that is dropping downward. and the common hepatic artery continues to go upward, continues to drive as if it's looking for something upstairs, and then it branches off into two arteries called the right and left hepatic artery. We're going to get to that in a short while, but let's look at this now. Here we have this artery here that begins to drive downward. This artery is moving towards the duodenal. So it is a gastric artery, but it is trying to romance with the duodenum. So it is a gastro-duodenal artery. So this is the gastro-duodenal artery. The gastro-duodenal artery gives a branch that begins to go all the way through the greater curvature. So it begins to go downward to the greater curvature. So that's it. And because it is a right part of it, and it's going through the greater curvature, where you have the greater omentum, it is described as the gastro-omental, the right gastro-omental artery. Now we're going to see what's going to happen to the right gastro-omental artery. Now this doesn't stop here. Now remember that we have the pancreas here. There's a pancreas around here, which I would love to represent. The head of the pancreas is situated here, and it runs all the way down there, going all the way to meet the spleen. So that's the tail of the pancreas, and that is the body of the pancreas. And of course you have, that's the spleen. Okay? Now this artery is going to drop down here and begin to supply the head of the pancreas and some part of the duodenum. That is the superior pancreatical duodenal artery. Now this artery, this other artery, which is also part of the gastro-duodenal artery, begin to supply the superior portion of the duodenum. So it is called the supraduodenal artery. So let us label some of these arteries we've just talked about. So this is your left gastric artery, and this is your right gastric artery. Okay, and that's your common hepatic artery. Common hepatic artery. Okay, now remember that the common hepatic artery will bifurcate into a right hepatic artery and a left hepatic artery. We'll talk about that in a short while. This is your supraduodenal artery, and that's your superior pancreatical duodenal artery, and here is your right gastro-omental artery. Now the right gastro-omental artery will anastomose with a branch of the splenic artery, which is the left gastro-omental artery. So there's an anastomosis there. So there's an anastomosis there. Alright? And we have very short splenic arteries. We have splenic arteries here, short splenic arteries, and another branch here, which is the posterior gastric artery, that supply the fundus of the of the stomach. So that's a posterior gastric artery, and these are short splenic artery, and this is a splenic artery. All right, good. Now the other thing we want to look at here is that if you remember when we discussed the greater and lesser omentum, we did say that behind here, when you put your hand through here, you're actually going into a foramen called the Foramen of Wisdom, the epiploic Foramen of Wisdom, that is formed by the hepatoduodenal ligament and of course the hepatogastric ligament. The hepatogastric and the hepatoduodenal ligament both form the lesser sac, or they're behind the lesser sac. So it forms the lesser omentum, right? Now, there are three important structures that is found in the hepatoduodenal ligament, and they are the common bile ducts. So this is going to be the common bile ducts as it is traveling with the common hepatic artery. So that's the common bile duct. So the common bile duct will bifurcate to become the right cystic duct, and here is the left cystic duct. So that's the left cystic duct, and that's the right cystic duct. Okay? Now remember also that the right hepatic artery gives a branch that is found in this area. So there's a branch there. This branch is a cystic artery. The cystic artery branches from the right hepatic artery. The cystic artery is found in this triangle. You can see there's a triangle that is formed here. This triangle is called the cystohepatic triangle, or the triangle of Callot. So the triangle of Callot is formed principally by the inferior margin of your liver. So that's the liver is formed by the inferior, so the superior part of the triangle is formed by the inferior margin of the liver. Medially, it is formed by the left cystic duct, and laterally it is formed by the right cystic duct. This triangle, look at the triangle here, it's very important to surgeon. The cystic artery is there. The cystic duct continues all the way to continue to become this structure here called the gallbladder. Now the cystic artery supply the gallbladder. That's the cystic artery. Surgeons, especially during cholecystectomy, if persons have cholelithiasis, stone in the gallbladder, or some obstruction here, and you want to ligate the cystic artery, they usually put their hand through this epiploic foramen and try to locate the triangle of Callot, which is the cystohepatic triangle, and ligate the cystic artery, and resect the gallbladder. So it is very important to know the anatomy of this very beautiful arrangement that we have here. Don't forget this: the celiac trunk is divided into three branches: the left gastric artery, the common hepatic artery, as well as the splenic artery. The the celiac trunk. The other thing that is important in this whole diagram is the triangle of Callot, and it's important during cholecystectomy for surgeons. I wish you the best in anatomy course. Thank you very much.